These are 5 games that I've backed on Kickstarter, and today I'm going to tell you why I love them and why I'd recommend you add them to your collection, because my name is Sam, this is Should You Back It, and I'm here to help you crowdfund with confidence. The first one I want to show you is actually 2 games, but it was ran as one campaign, so we're only counting it as one entry, which totally isn't cheating, I hope. But this is Tinderblocks and Kitten by Alley Cat Games. They're both dexterity games, but in completely different ways. In Tinderblocks, players take it in turns adding fuel or flames to the campfire. And you can do this by drawing cards from the deck and then adding what you see on the card to your fire in the way that it instructs you to. Sometimes this will mean you're adding a log vertically or using your non-dominant hand to carry out your turn. That can be catastrophic because you're going to be adding these tiny little components to your fire using this equally very tiny set of tweezers. These tweezers are the real antagonist in this game because if you're like me, you'll squeeze them tighter and tighter as you get stressed and concentrate even more, and that won't help your grip. Instead, it'll just shoot whatever you're holding across the room or at other players, which is always a little bit of a laugh. With Kitten, you empty the tin of little kitten meatballs into the middle of the table. You draw a card, and then all players have to recreate the shape they see on the card in the fastest time possible. You have to draw from the collective pool of kittens, and you can only draw one at a time. And what I love about this one is that it's not just about who is the fastest, you've actually got to build your kitten structure well enough that it's actually going to stand up and be stable for the other players to inspect. The reason why I backed these games is that they were £8 each. Shipping was £2 back in February of 2020, and I could see how these games would fit in my collection. If I'm playing with my usual group, these games are the appetizer before we dig into a legacy game or the campaign game we're playing. If my wife and I are going to a friend's house for dinner and they ask us to bring a board game with us, these usually get put into the bag because they're fun and accessible. I equally bring these games with me to family Christmas dinner every year since I've gotten them, and trust me, once you've had your Christmas Day glass of wine or 5, Tinderblocks and Kitten become fantastic games to spectate. If you want to pick up either of these games, I'll leave a link down in the description below. This is Escape the Dark Castle. Now, I missed out on this game in its original Kickstarter campaign. I only heard about it after the fact, but I did manage to pick it up during the Kickstarter campaign for its expansions. Now, in Escape the Dark Castle, there are no heroes and there are no happy endings. You're all normal people who find themselves locked away in the dungeon of the Dark Castle. But when the door is left open, you and your fellow prisoners decide to make your escape. As you play, you'll flip through cards which tell something of a story as you play. It introduces challenges and enemies, and they all have an amazing style and character to them. The game is fully cooperative because if one of you gets incapacitated, you'll all get returned to the dungeon, so it encourages you to share items, to strategize, and just generally work together. This game is hard, and I love that. Progressing and getting further than you did last time feels like an achievement, and since I've owned this game, I've maybe only beaten it a handful of times. There is, though, a large degree of luck to it. Your campaign deck is randomized by shuffling this big deck of cards and drawing 15, so there's no control over what you'll see or encounter during the game. Sometimes you'll get a really easy start, other times you'll face a really difficult enemy on the first card. If you don't like that kind of randomness, you likely won't like this game, but for me, I dig it. It means that games can end relatively quickly. It's a game that's not going to take a full evening to play, which means that just like Tinderblocks and Kitten, it can work as an appetizer game. And because of its simplicity and quick play time, Escape the Dark Castle has seen the table often since I've gotten it. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I'd really appreciate if you could hit the like button down below. I'm a relatively new channel, and that's a great way for me to know if you're liking this kind of content and enables other people to see it too. Now, just before you start thinking that my entire collection of board games is appetizer games, let's get into something a little more meaty. This is Cthulhu Death May Die. I absolutely love this game, not just because I'm a sucker for games with cool minis in it, but because I actually think this game is super accessible. If you're looking for a game in the Cthulhu genre that isn't super heavy on rules and doesn't have a playtime of 3+ hours, then Cthulhu Death May Die is something you might be interested in. The rulebook is thin, not because they've forgotten to include useful info or because they've done a bad job on it, but because you don't need to know a lot of stuff before you get going. I always describe this game as a Cthulhu light game. It's light on rules, it's lighter on playtime, but the games are fun, frantic, and full of the best kinds of chaos. In Cthulhu Death May Die, you'll play through episodes, each one with its own scenario, setting, and modular game layout. It has a very classic TV show feel in my opinion, and the miniatures that you play with really help set the tone and immerse people into the game. You'll each pick up an investigator to play as, each one with their own play style and specialty as they attempt to complete the episode before the big bad boss spawns and tries to eat you all. There are a ton of characters to choose from, and even more if you get the Season 2 expansion, which I also have. And it adds a ton of replayability to the game, but equally lets players really express themselves through their characters. Personally though, for me, I don't feel like I need this many investigators. I haven't touched the investigators in the Unspeakables box, which was a stretch goals box, or the Season 2 box. In fact, I usually just play as Rasputin, but I think that's more of a me issue. I tend to get stuck in my ways with games like this that present us as the players with a multitude of playable characters. I find a character I like and I just stick with it mostly, but equally, when there is this much variety in characters to play as, my initial thought is never, oh wow, look how many characters I could play as. It's usually these characters couldn't be that different from one another in the way they play. Surely. For me, what is more important isn't having more characters to play as, but instead enemies to play against, which is one of the reasons I didn't back the recent Season 3 and 4 Kickstarters. Regardless of that though, I really enjoy playing this game. I haven't fully completed it yet, I've been savouring it and slipping it into game night rotation when I can. Now, I've cheated a little with this game. I didn't actually back Western Legends on Kickstarter when the campaign was live back in 2018, but after playing the game, I wish I had. So technically it is a Kickstarter game that I own, and I do love it, which is why it's on this list. Western Legends is made by Colossal Games, and it's an open world, sandbox tabletop adventure game for 2 to 6 players set in the American Wild West. You take on the role of famous historical figures from that era and earn legendary status through a few different ways. You can gamble, herd cattle, prospect for gold, rob banks, become an outlaw, or catch criminals and take down bandits as a lawman. The first time I played this game, I was just blown away. The game perfectly captures the theme, and for me, the best way I can describe the first time playing this game and the feeling it gave me is that playing Western Legends made me feel like I was sitting in my childhood home as a child, watching old Western movies on daytime TV and drinking tea. Now that image may be a little too specific, but in essence, it just clicked with me. I had never really played a game that described itself as a sandbox board game up until this point, and while I was aware of what sandbox looked and played like in a video game context, I wasn't sure how that would translate into a board game when I was playing this. And yes, there is a limit to what you can do in this game, but really from turn 1 the game just goes, okay, you're in the Wild West, figure it out and do what you want. And there are a number of ways to earn the victory points needed to win the game. You can completely ignore other players and just mine gold. It'll take you a little longer, but that's a valid strategy. You can rob the bank over and over again as a criminal. Not only will you earn points for robbing the bank, but you'll climb the infamy tracker, which will enable you to earn more and more victory points at the end of each turn. It's a really powerful element to the criminal progression and forces other players to more or less deputize and take you down. Otherwise, you'll win the game very quickly, which isn't in their best interests. You can help or hinder actions and other players by playing action cards from your hand, which is in the form of a deck of poker cards, and you'll make opposed tests using these cards as well against other players. So if you and I were dueling, we don't roll dice, instead we play poker cards against each other. Every aspect of this game just fits the theme, and I just love it. I picked this up on eBay after playing it once. I was so in love with it, and I have, I believe, all of the expansions too. There equally aren't a lot of gameplay videos for this game out there, so this may get added to the list of games I do a playthrough of if you'd be interested in seeing it. If so, let me know down in the comments below. I know I would be more than happy to sit down and play a game of this. Finally, the most I've ever spent on a Kickstarter, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. I'm a fan of the Assassin's Creed video games, and when a video game has a board game tie-in, it always piques my interest. It also has miniatures, quite stunning miniatures, I might add, so it ticked that box too. Now in Brotherhood of Venice, you're going to play as one of a number of assassins and play out quite a long campaign, earning XP and leveling up as you go. The gameplay is an evolution of the gameplay that Triton Noir introduced with V-Sabotage, so if you're familiar with that game, there's a lot of crossover. You'll travel around the board seeking out certain items or assassinating high-value targets, or whatever the scenario demands really. It's more beneficial for you to play as stealthily as possible as it'll attract less attention, but at times you're going to get stuck into melee combat, and there's a variety of weapons in the game to suit your playstyle, whether you're a stealthy player or not so stealthy. I'm currently playing through the main campaign with a friend of mine, Ben, and we're really enjoying it. Each scenario presents a different challenge, and there's quite a lot of thought that's needed in order to successfully plan and execute a successful run. At least for us there is. You all may be a lot better at these kinds of games than us. Now this is going to sound odd, but one of the big things I love about this game is the rulebook. This right here is one of, if not the best rulebook I've come across for a board game, hands down, because it is incredibly accessible and easy to find the information that you need. Everything is numbered, and when you're playing through the introduction scenarios, or the first time you come across a game mechanic, it'll give you a corresponding number or chapter in the rulebook to where you can find out information on how that mechanic works. This has made learning how to play this game so much smoother, and it's something I think a lot of other companies could learn from, especially if they're producing these component-heavy, slightly chunkier games. This game likely has its flaws, but I enjoy playing it, and much like Western Legends, I feel like it fits the theme perfectly. If you are intrigued by this game, if you like the sound of it, or if you're a fan of Assassin's Creed or V-Sabotage, there is a slightly slimmed down version of this game coming to retail soon, if not already, and Triton Noir have said that they're going to be back on crowdfunding, probably Kickstarter, for an expansion for this game as well. So if you did miss out on it, or if you don't want this chunky box to play with, there are ways for you to get your hands on this in a slightly more slimmed down and likely affordable fashion. These are the games I've backed and loved. Very soon I'm going to be putting together a video of 5 games I've backed and never played, which I think is going to be a little bit of an interesting one. But let me know some of the games that you've backed and love down in the comments below. In the meantime, I'd love it though if you could check out this video next. YouTube thinks you'd like it, and by watching it, you'll be really helping support me and my channel. See you next time.